But I have to ask you, which NFC East team do you see actually winning a playoff game?
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely a tough question. I'm going to go with Washington right now because they're the only team in this division that has something that I feel like you can rely on. You can rely on their defense. By EPA, they're the third best defense in the league, and they've been playing even better lately. And you can trust that front four is going to show up because they tend to show up week in and week out. That's something that other teams will be afraid of and other teams have to adjust to. And they also have, assuming their quarterback comes back, Alex Smith comes back and is able to play, they have a quarterback who has some playoff wins. So I think that is a situation where they could – I don't have any faith or much faith in any team from this division, but if you're going to make me pick one, it's going to be the one that has a unit that is reliable and trustworthy. And they, I think, are going to be sitting at the head of the kids' table when everything shakes out this weekend. Washington's going to get into playoffs, and I think they have the best chance. Though it's low, they have the best chance to actually win a game in the playoffs more than any other team.
Shocking. I disagree with Domonique. So I'm actually, it scares me that I'm saying this. I'm going to say the Cowboys. And I cannot believe that in December, I'm actually picking the Cowboys. But here's why. Because now in December is when you need to be playing your best football. And I was at that Washington-Carolina game. I covered that game. I saw Washington play in a game where they had everything they needed in front of them. All they had to do was beat Carolina, and they had guaranteed, like, okay, we're going to the playoffs. And they did not win. So now this weekend we said we have the same scenario, win and you're in. But that the way I saw that Washington team play after a week of Dwayne Haskins stuff, and now it's another week where we're talking about Dwayne Haskins. This team, it's not that I don't believe in Washington, but their quarterback situation troubles me. As much as Chase Young believes in Taylor Heineke, you can't rest on Taylor Heineke is going to be the thing that gets you to the playoffs. It's a young team. It's a good team, a good defense, but a very young team that Ron Rivera has. And I will say, in defense of the Cowboys, we were killing them a couple months ago. And in the last 3 games, it looks like a different team. I understand we're talking about the NFC East, but this looks like a different team. Andy Dalton looks like a different guy. 3 touchdowns last week, 10 takeaways over the last 3 games. December is when you need to have the momentum, and the Cowboys, for whatever reason, they are in prime position to shock some people.
You said whatever reason. That suggests to me that you can't explain what's going on, so you can't trust it. You can't rely on it.
You can't trust anything.
I can explain. That's fair, but I can explain what's going on in Washington. Them boys up front is getting after it. That front four is a problem. I can trust that. I can't trust Andy Dalton. I'm sorry. I know they have great receivers, but I can't trust Andy Dalton the way he's played this season. And you can even go back to him being in Cincinnati. Andy Dalton doesn't have playoff success necessarily, or not necessarily. In a fact, he doesn't have any playoff wins. That's a problem. I understand wins and losses are not a quarterback stat, but it will be real nice to point to your quarterback and say, hey, he's won a playoff game. Alex Smith isn't some sort of playoff world beater, but I think he has 2 dubs in the playoffs, and that gives people some confidence, even though that was a long time ago before different injuries. But he's making reasonable decisions. I'm not saying he's a great quarterback, but I'm saying he's a good game manager, and when you have a great defense, which their defense seems like it is tracking towards, I can believe in that. There is nothing. You have no faith. You can't trust anything that's happening in Dallas. I'm sorry. That situation is poor.
Listen, you're bringing up Andy Dalton. And at least Andy Dalton, at least you can trust that he's a veteran. You don't have that in Washington. And you bring up Alex Smith, his numbers aren't that much better than Dwayne Haskins. Now, there's a reason. I will never doubt Alex Smith, comeback player of the year. Like, I get it. But when you talk about right now what this team is doing, you don't know week to week who's starting. You know, they were praying that Alex Smith's calf was going to get him to that Carolina game, and it did not. And what did we see? Dwayne Haskins bench for Taylor Heineke. You know, that's not a situation where you can feel confident going into a must-win game and then in the playoffs. I'm sorry, that defense legit, but I'm not sold on the rest of the team. Roster-wise, on paper, the Cowboys, top to bottom, much better roster than Washington.
So I know better than to cut you off. You taught me and Ryan that lesson
Thank you.
yesterday the
Thank
hard way.
you.
So I'm just gonna wait until you open up some space for me to speak. I believe it's my turn now, so I'll go ahead. Thank you, Kimberly, for allowing me to say some stuff. But I don't trust the Cowboys' offense. I don't trust their defense. I don't trust their fake punting special teams. I don't trust their coaching staff. I don't trust anything about the Dallas Cowboys. And I agree with you. There's so much to be concerned about in Washington. There's so much to be concerned about in this whole division. I don't necessarily, you're right. Alex Smith's numbers are not all that impressive. Actually, they're bad, but he makes good decisions most of the time. So I don't trust Alex Smith necessarily. I certainly don't trust that offense. But I trust that defensive line. So that's what I'm going to rely on. I trust Ron Rivera. I trust those coaches and that defensive line more than anything else in this division. And I think this conversation might be a waste of time, honestly, because I think either team is going to lose in the playoffs. I don't even know what's going to happen in this division. I think Washington will win this weekend and get in, and they'll probably get smashed by somebody else. But they have a better chance than the Cowboys because the Cowboys are so unpredictable. And you're right, they've had some better numbers on offense recently, but let's look at who they were playing against. They were playing against, you're right, some other teams from their division that's not very good. Yeah. Well, the Philly team had no corners out there. They had Darius Slay kind of playing by himself in that situation, and and that would lead to having some bigger numbers than you can trust. And you know what? You're not going to get a depleted team when you get to the playoffs. And I haven't seen nothing from the Cowboys to suggest that we can trust them. We can rely on them to outcoach, to outplay anybody. It's just been bad.
So you're telling me you trust Taylor Heineke? No disrespect, Taylor Heineke. Seems like a great guy, and he outplayed Dwayne Haskins last week. But you trust Taylor Heineke in this situation, win and you're in, versus Andy Dalton and a Cowboys team that on defense and offense seems, I don't want to use the word rejuvenated, but I'll just use it.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.